Welcome to Workplace Psychology with Dr. Martha Greidick. I'm Dr. Martha Greidick. This podcast examines a wide variety of work-related issues through the lens of industrial and organizational psychology. And while many of the topics discussed here may be seen as intended for white-collar employees and their employers, in reality, the ideas presented here are applicable across organizations and industries. Additionally, many of the topics discussed here may be applicable outside of the workplace. I encourage you to examine what's presented here, apply what makes sense to you, and simply discard the rest. If you're one of those people who absolutely loves their job, count your blessings, because not everybody's in the same boat. A lot of people enjoy what they do. They like their jobs. Some are neutral, others may tolerate their jobs, and a few may not like their jobs at all. But wherever you fall on that spectrum, there's always room for making your experience better. And one way of improving your experience at the workplace with your job and what you do is to assign meaning to your work. And that means a positive type of meaning. And assigning meaning to your work may be directly work-related, or it may be a meaning that you give to your life outside of the workplace. Let me explain. A meaningful work experience that is directly related to the work itself, to the job itself, may be something along the lines of affecting for the better the experiences of other people, whether it's customers or clients, or maybe affecting the organization in a positive way, or your colleagues, or the community that surrounds the organization, or perhaps the industry itself. Your work can have a lot of meaning when it comes to how your efforts affect the work environment and the outcomes of what you do. When what you do at work takes on meaning outside of the workplace, it could come in many different flavors, so to speak. It could be anything such as taking care of your family by having a stable job and a good paycheck, or maybe taking care of community or organizations that you support through the stability of your work, through the efforts of your work, and contributions that you can make outside of the workplace as a result of that. A meaningful work experience can also translate as a certain amount of freedom and happiness in your personal life outside of the workplace. And of course, whether we're looking at a sense of meaning that is related more to the workplace itself, or as it relates to things or people outside of the workplace, either way, it can give you a tremendous sense of accomplishment. Unfortunately, in our busy society, in our busy everyday lives, sometimes we forget to think about the meaning of our efforts and our contributions at work. So why is meaning so important to our efforts and to what we do at work? Well, for example, it can improve our overall experience with our work and the efforts that we put into everything that we do. When something has meaning for you, you are much more likely to approach it in a different way. Maybe you put in more effort, maybe you find more joy in the effort or in the outcome that you receive. Understanding the meaning of your work can also make it easier to get through difficult situations. When there's a meaning assigned to what we do, we tend to have a greater purpose for our efforts. And that can be very helpful as we push through difficult situations because there is different goal, different purpose that we are aiming for. So situations that we may encounter, whether they're difficult or not, aren't as bad when there's a bigger goal in sight, bigger purpose. So having meaning assigned to what we do and to all of our efforts at work can be very helpful in defining that purpose and helping us to push through difficult situations. Meaning can also help us to neutralize the negative effects of negative situations at work. Although we would all like to have pleasant days and pleasant experiences every day that we show up at work, that doesn't always turn out that way. Sometimes there are difficult situations. And of course, some jobs are more stressful by their very nature than other jobs are. But when we assign a meaning to what we do, which then, as I already mentioned, allows us to have a bigger purpose, then that in itself can have a very neutralizing effect to any negative effects that may otherwise come along with difficult situations or more stressful jobs. In a book titled A Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl described his experiences in a concentration camp during World War II. And while that's an extreme example, he lived through some horrific experiences. The example still applies in that it was his ability to assign meaning to all of the experiences through which he survived that pushed him forward and allowed him to survive, allowed him to keep hope, allowed him to have a greater purpose. Many of the people who did not survive, according to the story that Frankl tells, lost hope because they could not see meaning in the horrendous things that were happening to them. So if assigning meaning to your experience can be as powerful as allowing you to survive something so tremendous and so horrible as living in a concentration camp during the war, imagine what finding meaning in your work can do for you. When we assign meaning to what we do, that in itself can change the value of our efforts, which can then allow us to see things differently, to have a different perception of those experiences. While your experiences at work are probably nothing like Viktor Frankl's experiences in the concentration camp, any negative experiences at work can still affect you. It's not difficult to understand that. And years of negative experiences will have a cumulative effect. They will add up and they will affect you, whether it's physically or emotionally. So why not improve your experience at the workplace by finding meaning in what you do and your efforts so that your experiences at work are better experiences? Finding meaning in what we do can motivate and inspire us, and that inspiration and motivation isn't limited to the workplace. It can spill over into our personal lives as well. It can provide a certain sense of pride in what we do and why we do it. It can also provide an overall sense of accomplishment. Keep in mind that the meaning that we assign to whatever we do can also change over time. Not only can it change with the passage of time, it can change with the gaining of other experiences or learning and growing and simply becoming wiser. As the episode comes to an end, let's review what was discussed. Finding meaning in our efforts and in what we do at work can be tremendous and improve our overall experience at the workplace. Whether that meaning is linked directly to your work and the workplace, meaning linked to you professionally, or whether it's linked on a personal level to things, people, and events outside of the workplace, it has an equally positive effect on you. Finding meaning in what we do can not only allow us to have an overall better experience, it can also get us through some difficult situations. And as we all experience some less than ideal situations at work, the overall approach that has a meaning assigned to what we do can also neutralize any negative effects associated with a stressful work environment or stressful experiences at work. As the week unfolds, I invite you to examine your own work experience. Is it a meaningful one, or have you never really given any thought to what your efforts at work really mean? I invite you to give it some thought, because I'm certain that you can find meaning in what you do, whether that meaning relates directly to the workplace and the organization or to you professionally, or whether it's linked to your life outside of the workplace. Some of you may find meaning rather easily, while others may have to search for it and give it some thought. But at the end, your efforts will be well worth it. Imagine engaging in work on a daily basis and doing something that is meaningful versus something that doesn't mean anything. Which would you choose? The beauty of this whole thing is that you assign the meaning to your work and your efforts. It only has to have meaning for you. So it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks or says. And I can think of no job and no type of effort where meaning could not be assigned to it. That makes it a win-win situation for everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Please subscribe to this podcast. I hope that you will join me again next time. Until then, I wish you joy and well-being.